All right, today we're getting into a kind of ghost story from political history. It's about a tension right at the heart of socialism that, believe it or not, is super relevant today. Let's dive in.
It all kicks off with this really powerful line. A specter haunts socialism, the specter of the people. I mean, right away, that sounds strange, doesn't it? A little contradictory. What does that even mean? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out.
So, let's start with this idea of socialism's populist ghost. This really gets to the core of it. From its earliest days, socialism has had this complicated, almost haunted relationship with the very people it's supposed to be for.
Here's the tension in a nutshell. On the one hand, socialism's whole mission is to champion the people. But on the other hand, it often seems way more comfortable with a cleaner, more theoretical idea, class. And that creates this fundamental wobble, this haunting that we're going to trace all the way through our story.
Now, to really get this, you got to understand that populism kind of has two different faces. You've got principled populism, which is a real, genuine commitment to a politics of the people, and then there's instrumental populism, which is more of a political appeal to the people, but maybe it's just being used to get something else done. And that's the big question. Is the appeal for real, or is it just a tool?
So let's bring in the first major figure who really struggled with this, Karl Marx. He's pretty much ground zero for understanding this tug of war between the idea of the people and the idea of class.
You see, for Marx, class wasn't just some abstract concept. His whole analysis was about how the engine of capitalism actually takes this big, disconnected mass of people and forges them into something new, a unified force with a shared identity, the proletariat.
And to explain this, Marx made this really key distinction. First, you have the class in itself. Think of that as the group of people who share the same economic interests, even if they don't know it yet. But the goal, the real goal, is for them to become a class for itself. That's when the group wakes up, becomes self-aware, and starts acting together politically.
And this is where you can really see Marx's conflicted feelings. He'd often use the term the people and his revolutionary proletariat almost like they were the same thing. But when you look closer, he saw the people as this messy, limited group. For him, the real agent of history, the hero of the story, was the more rigorous, more theoretical proletariat.
Okay, now for a really fascinating contrast. Let's head over to 19th century France and talk about the Blanquists. They had a totally different vision for socialist politics, one that pushed back hard against Marx's more theoretical approach.
The Blanquists were all about action. They weren't going to sit around writing theories. Their whole focus was on the ground, organizing, and building a real, living, breathing revolutionary community, right there in the streets.
And this really lays out the difference perfectly. Marx was focused on material interests, the theoretical analysis of economic class. The Blanquists, they were obsessed with material practice. For them, it was all about concrete, tangible stuff, collective action, and building a community.
So what did that material practice actually look like? Well, we're talking about building barricades in the streets, intense grassroots organizing, armed rebellion. They even created public ceremonies for the poor to build that sense of solidarity. It was all about creating a shared revolutionary identity by actually doing things together.
So how did the Marxists see them? Well, Marx's right-hand man, Friedrich Engels, kind of dismissed the Blanquists. He said they were socialists, quote, only in sentiment, in sympathy with the suffering of the people, but not by theory. And that quote just perfectly captures the tension we've been talking about, the populist heart versus the theoretical mind.
So we've got this deep tension between theory and action, right? But our story isn't over. It has a third act, a potential solution that came along in the form of social democracy. This new path was really charted by a thinker named Edward Bernstein, and he proposed a pretty radical idea, an evolutionary one. He said, hey, instead of a violent revolution to overthrow the state, what if we fuse socialist goals with democratic politics and use the state itself to get them done?
And here's how that evolutionary path was supposed to work. It was kind of like a three-step plan. Step 1, win the universal franchise, so everyone gets the right to vote. Step 2, build up democracy from the ground up with things like workers' cooperatives. And finally, Step 3, use that democratic power to get the state to enact social policies that create real material equality, a gradual, democratic transformation.
Now, this vision really came to life in Sweden with this amazing and kind of poetic concept called folkhemmet. It translates to the people's home, which is just a beautiful metaphor for what a social democratic society could actually feel like.
So what does it mean to live in the people's home?
Well, in this vision, society isn't some dog-eat-dog marketplace. It's a home, where every single member is treated as an equal. The whole emphasis is on solidarity and making sure everyone can fully participate. It has this really deep populist and egalitarian spirit.
Okay, so this has been a fascinating trip through history, but how does this whole journey connect to our world right now? Because this isn't just some dusty old debate. It has a huge legacy today.
Well, the big argument here is that social democracy isn't just another political party anymore. It's actually become a core feature that's woven into the very fabric of our societies. In a lot of ways, its ideas are what make modern liberal democracy even possible.
And I bet you'll recognize a lot of these policies, because they're all around us. Things like state support for our health, policies that are designed to reduce inequality, regulations that soften the harsher side effects of capitalism, and really, the entire idea of the welfare state. These things have totally shaped the modern world.
So here it is. Here's the synthesis. Social democracy seems to offer a clear reconciliation between socialism and populism, and it does it by providing the material basis, the security, the well-being that makes real political equality possible in the first place. It kind of resolves that haunting we started with by creating the conditions for a true politics of the people.
And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Can a true politics of the people ever really exist if you don't first provide for the people? That's the central question this whole story leaves us with. Thanks for tuning in to This Explainer.